A long time ago, in a small town near a river, there lived a blacksmith named Ethan. He was a quiet man who worked very hard. He made tools, horseshoes, and swords. His hands were rough from years of hard work, but he never talked about how good he was. In the same town, there was another blacksmith named Lucas. Lucas liked to show off. He always talked loudly about his skills, his money, and his strength. He wanted everyone to see how great he was. Whenever he bought something new, he walked around the town to show it to people. One day, the king made an announcement. There would be a big competition. The best blacksmith would get gold and a big reward. The strongest sword would win. Lucas laughed and said, "I am the best blacksmith in town. I will win for sure." He bought the most expensive iron and started making a sword. But he did something strange. He worked in the marketplace where everyone could see him. "Look at me!" he shouted while hitting the metal. "I am making the best sword for the king." Many people came to watch. They clapped and praised him. This made Lucas feel very proud, but Ethan was different. He did not tell anyone about the competition. He worked alone in his small workshop. He chose the best iron, heated it carefully, and hammered it with great skill. He tested the sword again and again to make sure it was strong. The day of the competition came. Many blacksmiths brought their swords to the king's palace. Lucas walked in proudly, wearing his finest clothes. His sword was covered in beautiful silk. "Look at my masterpiece," he said loudly. His sword was shiny and beautiful. The crowd gasped when they saw it. Then Ethan arrived. He did not wear fancy clothes or try to impress anyone. He quietly handed his sword to the judges. His sword did not look fancy. There was no gold, no decorations, just a strong, simple sword. The judges started testing the swords. They hit iron shields, cut thick bamboo, and did many strength tests. Finally, the last test came. The swords had to hit each other. Lucas's sword clashed against Ethan's. A loud noise filled the room. Suddenly, Lucas's sword broke into pieces. The crowd became silent. Lucas's face turned white. His beautiful sword had failed. But Ethan's sword was still strong and sharp. The king stood up and said, "The strongest sword is not always the most beautiful one. True strength comes from patience, skill, and hard work, not from showing off." The king looked at Ethan and said, "You did not talk about your skills. You did not show off. But your work speaks for itself. You are the true winner." People cheered for Ethan. He bowed his head humbly. Lucas felt ashamed. He realized his mistake. He cared more about impressing people than making a strong sword. This story teaches us a very important lesson. Real success does not need to be shown off. Today, many people want to show off their success. They post pictures of their new cars, expensive clothes, or big houses on social media. But true success does not come from these things. Think about the strongest trees. Do they shout about their growth? No. They grow slowly and silently, but one day they become the tallest trees in the forest. Great people do not waste time trying to prove themselves. They let their work do the talking.